Good evening and welcome to the West Orange Board of Education Public Board Meeting on Monday, May 8th, 2023. I would like to thank all of you here in person and those watching from home for joining us tonight. Ms. Flowers, would you please take the roll call?
Good evening. Roll call. Mr. Ifker?
Here.
Mr. Stevenson?
Here.
Ms. Tunnicliff? Here. Vice President Huerta? Here. President Rock?
Here.
Thank you. Notice of meeting. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests are discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, a written notice was sent from the Office of the Secretary of the Board on January 6, 2023. That said notice was sent by regular mail to the West Orange Township Clerk and the editors of the West Orange Chronicle and by email to the Star Ledger. That said notice was posted in the lobby of the Administration Building of the Board of Education and posted on the district website. Please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and may be broadcasted on local TV and the district's website at a future date. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Flowers. In consideration of the closed and public meeting of April 24th, 2023, do I have a motion to accept the minutes? Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Tunnicliff. Any comments? Hearing no comments, Ms. Flowers, please take the roll call.
Mr. Ifker?
Here.
Mr. Stevenson?
Mr. President, I would just like to make one comment. I was not here for the April 24th meeting, but I want to, and I missed the photo op, want to congratulate Mr. Moore on his appointment to acting superintendent, inevitably superintendent. It's an honor to serve on this board and have this leadership in place. So I'm always missing the photo ops. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moore. Thank you. Yes.
Yes, Mr. Stevenson. Ms. Tunnicliff?
Yes.
Vice President Huerta?
Yes.
President Rock?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening to our student liaison, Maura Baker. Would you please share your report at this time?
Yes, thank you and good evening. We had a lot of exciting events in the district this past month. We'd first like to congratulate Edison Middle School on their Shrek Junior performance and Roosevelt Middle School on their Legally Blonde Junior performance. West Orange High School hosted their annual College Decision Day on Thursday, May 3rd, where students wore gear from their chosen colleges and universities. Congratulations to the entire class of 2023. We also have a lot of exciting events coming up in the district. Liberty Middle School will be performing Descendants the Musical from May 10th through May 12th. The West Orange High School Senior Prom is on May 24th, and tickets are still available on wobo.org for $100. Congratulations to Michaela Nathan, who was the West Orange High School Scholar Athlete of the Week last week. This week is also Teacher Appreciation Week, and the student liaisons would like to thank teachers and staff who assist and guide our students on a daily basis. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Moore, it is time for your report. Would you please share your superintendent's report with us?
Yes, thank you, President Rock. As I begin, I first want to start by thanking all our teachers who work very hard every day. It is my pleasure to be a colleague alongside each and every one of you, and I look forward to being your new superintendent. I also would like to thank the community for their belief and their confidence in me. I appreciate it, and I will work 100%. I will work very hard for our students in our community. And last, I'd like to thank this board for believing in me, but not only that, making me part of the team very quickly. I thank you all for taking me in and making me feel comfortable. I appreciate that. So this evening, President Rock and the board, we celebrate the heritage of Asian American Pacific Islanders during the month of May. We're very proud of that. throughout our district in a variety of ways. One key event is scheduled for May 31st at 7 p.m. when a virtual meeting or discussion will be taking place with Shelley Sang-Hee Lee, who is an author and a professor of American Studies at Brown University. I am delighted that this opportunity is being brought to our community with the help of our Office of Diversity, Equity, and Access and Inclusion, headed by Dr. Tamika Pollins. Details of this event will be distributed shortly. Another, President Rock, is that tonight, noted on the public agenda, we have the pleasure of our colleagues from the United Asian Voices of West Orange, who will offer a presentation, and we are delighted to have them here. We ask, would the United Asian Voices please take the floor? Absolutely. Okay, we'll take our seats in the audience.
Thank you, Superintendent Moore. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sage, and I'm a longtime resident of West Orange and also a member of the United Asian Voices. On behalf of UAV, I'd like to thank Mr. Moore and each member of the board for your ongoing support, especially with our annual Lunar New Year celebrations and the Festival of Lights known as Diwali. These Asian cultural celebrations would not have been as successful without your support of United Asian Voices and your support of West Orange students and West Orange educators like Felix Plata and the district's Mandarin language teachers, Yijing Li, Dongming Li, Peggy Yu, Jun Lewin, and Ted McGurran. Before the students present this evening, I'd like to take a moment and introduce United Asian Voices of West Orange to our neighbors who are in the room and who are listening in on the Zoom who may not be familiar with us. United Asian Voices of West Orange is a volunteer-run community group founded in 2021 in response to the rise of anti-Asian hate during the pandemic. UAV's mission is to bring together, amplify, and empower Asian voices on educational, civic, and legislative matters. We are working closely with the BOE, the township, local groups, and neighbors to engage in diversity, equity, and inclusion matters. In addition to bringing cultural celebrations, United Asian Voices of West Orange has also organized MLK service days, book readings, women-centered events, and voter educational efforts. May is nationally recognized as Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Across the country, schools, companies, and communities pay special tribute to the generations of AAPIs who have enriched America's history and who are instrumental in its future success. We each have different journeys, even if we share the same cultures and mother languages. AAPI experiences are not monolithic, which is why we must make the space to recognize the diverse experiences, contributions, struggles, and voices of AAPI peoples. And we must do so consistently in every school across the West Orange District and throughout the year before and after AAPI Heritage Month. To encourage reading and understanding of diverse AAPI voices, UAV has created a video series featuring West Orange students reading books featuring notable figures in America. For example, Amron Oshiro, a West Orange High School freshman who is of Thai and Japanese descent, read 2 books featuring American legislators. Illinois Senator Tammy Duckworth, who is an American veteran and a double amputee and a fierce advocate for equal health care access. She is of Thai descent. The other book Amron read on video is on late Congresswoman Patsy Takemoto Mink from Hawaii, who was Japanese American and one of the leading advocates for equal funding for girls' sports and education. To learn more about UAV's AAPI video series, please connect with us on Facebook on IG. Once again, I'd like to thank Superintendent Moore and each of the board members for recognizing Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month and for giving the opportunity for students and United Asian Voices to present a mini celebration this evening. The first student presenter this evening is Kai Jarvis. Kai Jarvis is a West Orange High School sophomore. He's an honor student who is part of the IMS program and is proud to have earned A's in his AP Stats and Honors Chinese classes this semester. He is also a member of the tennis team and different cultural clubs. He identifies as mixed race and is proud of his Asian and Caribbean heritages. When asked about school lessons that were inclusive of Asian Americans, he could only recall 2 from all his years in the West Orange school and school system. Special shout outs I want to give to Ms. Horowitz of Liberty Middle School and Mr. Robardo of West Orange High School for including lessons about the forced removal and incarceration of 120,000 plus Japanese Americans during World War II into their American history and literature classes. Kai hopes that more West Orange teachers will incorporate the voices of Asian Americans into their year-round classroom lessons. This evening, Kai will be reading 2 poems. The first poem is by Alexandra Nguyen, a Vietnamese American student from California. She is also the 2021 Nations Youth Poet Laureate and is now studying at Stanford University. She wrote a love poem for the end of the world, which is about a peaceful acceptance of chaos in our personal and collective lives. The second poem Kyle is entitled is On Being Asian American. It's written by Lawson Puso Inada, a 3rd-generation Japanese American who is now in his early 80s. As a child, Lawson and his family were incarcerated in camps during World War II. In the poem, Lawson acknowledges difficulties of being an Asian American, but expresses pride in his dual heritage. Hi.
Love poem for the end of the world. Should the end of the world come, tell them we've already seen it. The traffic parted and the people went indoors. And everything became very blue, which could be a reference to our screens, I suppose. But I more mean the film on my tongue, the lacing of my shoulders. I think I heard the opposite of an echo, sitting down inside of myself. For the 4th time last week, I kept thinking too slow. I keep trying to say my name. But they're static. I keep tripping on the step stools, which I think is supposed to ground me. And what better way to fly than to have it done by accident? Because that's all that this is. And hope you don't think me a pessimist. I'm just trying to say, Bob Ross would be pleased with what we've created. As everything else became unstuck, so should the end of the world. Tell them we're not scared. You see, worlds end all the time. This moment is a world. This poem, a world. And there'll be infinitely many of after it. The sun is just a burning body, but it makes this here, this seeing your face, possible. How wondrous is that? We have memory to weave these stars into constellations. There's a pattern we burn into the night sky, and we alone can make it beautiful. Still, listen now while our hands are still raw with magic. All that you can hold, build something, break it down, and then build it again. When you finally look up, smile at the people standing beside you. Okay, the second poem, On Being Asian American. For our children, of course, not everyone can be Asian American. Distinctions are earned and deserve dedication. Thus, from time of birth, the journey awaits you. Ventures through time, the turns of the earth. When you seem to arrive, the journey continues. When you seem to arrive, the journey continues. Take me as I am, you cry. I am an individual, which is certainly true, which generates an echo. Who are all your people assembled in celebration with wisdom and strength to which you are entitled? For you are at the head of succeeding generations, and as the world comes forward to greet you. Okay, yeah. Now I would like to introduce Ananda Espina, my friend. Ananda Espina is a proud Filipino American, and she is currently a sophomore at the West Orange High School. She and her family have been in West Orange for over 10 years. Ananda is both a STEM-focused student and a performing artist. She has a special interest in medical science and has an immense passion for music, which she expresses through song and violin. Ananda will be singing her rendition of a song entitled The Journey, originally performed by Lee Salgona, an internationally recognized Filipino singer and actress. Ms. Salgona faced constant pressures to succeed in a primarily white-dominated entertainment industry. Her journey to stardom was rocky at first, in part because she starred in a controversial Broadway show that critics say contributed to stereotypes about Asian women. Yet through perseverance and a deeper understanding of her own identity, Ms. Salgona has become a star on the international stages and screens. Her life story has become an inspiration to many young artists, especially those of Asian heritage. Her journey was not always easy, as the song The Journey insinuates. Ananda chose this song to encourage fellow students to carve out their own paths and to fully embrace their own beautiful identities, every nuance and complexity. Ananda encourages students to persevere through stumbles and failures, and to always let their unique selves shine through.
Oh, wait, no, it's supposed to be about. Half the world is sleeping, half the world's awake, half can hear their heartbeat, half just hear them break. I am but a traveler in most every way. Ask me what you want to know. What a journey it has been, and the end is not in sight. But the stars are out tonight, and they're bound to guide my way. When they're shining on my life, I can see a better day. I won't let the darkness in. What a journey it has been. I have been through sorrow. I have been to bliss. Where I'll be tomorrow, I can only guess. Through the darkest desert, through the deepest snow, forward, always forward I go. What a journey it has been, and the end is not in sight. But the stars are out tonight, and they're bound to guide my way. When they're shining on my life, I can see a better day. I won't let the darkness in. What a journey it has been. Forward, always forward. onward, always up, catching every drop of hope in my empty cup. What a journey it has been, and the end is not in sight. But the stars are out tonight, and they're bound to guide my way. When they're shining on my life, I can see a better day. I won't let the darkness in. What a journey it has been. Thank you.
No. Oh my gosh, no, sorry. That's okay. You thought you could escape. No, not yet. Oh my gosh. Wasn't that Ananda? I still have goosebumps. That was awesome. Absolutely beautiful singing. Good evening, everyone. Thank you once again, Superintendent Moore, board members, for allowing United Asian Voices to once again present an AAPI presentation during this Heritage Month. And some of you may know me, some of you may not, so let me reintroduce myself. My name is Fanny. I'm a mother of 2 West Orange students, and I'm a member of United Asian Voices of West Orange. I am going to lower this because I am short. Thank you, of course, to UAV member Sage, and of course to our 2 beautiful students, Kai Jarvis and Ananda Espina, for being a part of this celebration, for raising your voices in honor of AAPI Heritage Month, and for speaking your truths. And thank you, of course, to Amarin Oshiro and all the other students who have participated in the AAPI video reading series, which hopefully will be housed on social media, and I will give you the details at a later time. But again, as Sage said, please do contact UAV through Facebook or Instagram for more details. Tonight, the students touch on the fact that individual journeys of self-discovery can indeed be complex, especially for AAPIs who are often battling a world that seeks to diminish, silence, and discriminate against them simply because of their identities. Thus, it is critical that West Orange's curriculum reflects, respects, and uplifts students so that they feel a sense of greater belonging. Schools in New Jersey who are committed to this work and who are implementing the AAPI curriculum include nearby district Springfield, who has recently incorporated AAPI Voices into their year-round curriculum for all grade levels, and they have encouraged students to complete research projects that focus on AAPIs. Cherry Hill in South Jersey will be creating a half-year course on AAPI studies for the following school year, which will include teaching critical literacy and empathy through literature. Princeton has included AAPI immigration's experiences in their social studies curriculum. They've expanded their pathways to racial literacy courses, and they are honoring innovation by AAPIs in the fields of STEAM by having students engage in design projects in their science and art classes. So not just simply history classes or not just simply literature classes, but AAPI Voices are being incorporated in different school districts across different subject areas. We understand that West Orange District has also taken steps toward the implementation of the AAPI curriculum mandate, including utilizing the educational and book resources that UAV has shared. Thus, at this time, UAV would like to say special thanks to Michael Figueredo, the district's social studies district supervisor, who has encouraged teachers to participate in professional development trainings where they are learning how to seamlessly integrate the histories of AAPI peoples into the West Orange Social Studies curriculum. Thank you, Mr. Figueredo and West Orange Social Studies teachers and administrators for recognizing how the integration of AAPI voices and the teaching of diverse perspectives can truly enhance the educational experience of all students. We hope the district will expand on these steps to strengthen the West Orange curriculum. As part of greater DEI initiatives, we like to also once again suggest to the BOE and to the wider school community that a diversity council be established in each and every single school. Currently, St. Cloud remains the only school in the district that has one. 2 years ago, when United Asian Voices first proposed replicating St. Cloud's Diversity Council across the district, we did so after seeing how their students have benefited from a variety of programs and events, including parent roundtable discussions during Pride Week. The mic seems, here we go. Plus a week-long programming series on Black Lives Matter and different celebrations elevating diverse AAPI voices and cultures, as well as other underserved communities. With a diversity council in each school, which should be an extension of the PTAs, schools can organize educational, relevant, and fun programs throughout the year that reflect the specific interests and needs of their school community, thereby fostering greater family engagement. United Asian Voices would be happy to collaborate with future diversity councils, which we would hope will be established across the district and supported by the Diversity, Equity, and Access Task Force that is to be revived, that's a question mark, by BOE, so future conversations possibly. Okay. In closing, United Asian Voices is happy to support educators as you integrate diverse AAPI voices into the curriculum. From notable American figures featured in the video reading series to rising stars like our young artists we've heard from today. We are happy to support efforts to include more AAPI representation in classrooms, in book collections, in your collection of posters that feature role models that line the walls of your schools. We'd like to see more representation within the school classrooms and hallways. And of course, within BOE practices to identify and hire more educators and staff. United Asian Voices looks forward to working with you all on future programming, on the implementation of the curriculum mandates, and on the expansion of DEI mandates. Now I'm closing for sure. Thank you.
I can do my board report from here so that we can sit. But first, before we get started, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Just want to thank our students. I'm proud to be a Mountaineer alongside both of you. Thank you so much for that wonderful representation. And to our United Asian Voices, thank you so much for coming up and making sure that we are definitely representing our people as we are one community. So we appreciate that. And yes, as I embark on my 6th day, Fanny, I definitely will make sure that you reach out, we talk, and oh, of course, Sage, without a doubt, Sage, at the same time, we reach out, we talk. Some of the things that you've mentioned, you give me a little background from this lens so that I can take a closer look and we can always work together. It's an excellent, excellent idea and pursuit. So we'll continue to work together in partnership. So I appreciate that. Thank you. To our board, the next report on our board agenda would be the budget, our final budget presentation for the 23-24 school year. Our final budget presentation for the 23-24 school year. it will be familiar to you. You've seen the presentation prior, but there are some adjustments which we will make indication of so that you know where we have made some adjustments. So our budget goals, as we said in the preliminary, would be to increase and support student achievement by optimizing district spending, maintain a safe and secure environments in all buildings. As you can see, here are our enrollment numbers. Our total enrollment, 6,844. If you take a look at your school in particular, you can see how many students are enrolled in your school at the present time. Okay. Our students' instructional, extracurricular, and athletic programs are supported by 809 certificated staff and, of course, 486 non-certificated staff. The way our budget is funded, of course, the revenues start with the tax levy. These are tax bills collected by the municipality for school use. As you can see, it's at 150 mil. Bank cap at 972,000. State aid at 34 million. Other aid and miscellaneous revenue would be at 5 million. And budgeted fund balance, which is unreserved excess surplus, is at 4,354,000. What are our expenditures? As you can see, salaries are 57% of our budget. Benefits take up 17% of our budget. Our special education, which includes transportation, is about 11% of our budget. Instruction and support is about 4%. Operations, maintenance, and security, it's also at 4%. Transportation and jet is about 4%, and capital outlay is about 3% of our budget. What does our 23-24 budget include? Well, the support for increase of student enrollment in our schools and specialized programs. As you can see, we started with our preschools disabilities, our special education programs, our English ELL, English language learners, maintain our existing instructional staff, the staff we have now, and maintaining our instructional, extracurricular, and athletic programs that we have in place now. So to support our student achievement, we're looking at 1 ESL teacher, 1 primary autism teacher, 1 speech and language specialist, 1 world language teacher, 1 supervisor from pre-K to 5th grade for special services, 3 math interventionalists, which we will have at the middle school. This was we're hoping a bright spot in our budget to help us improve our student achievement, especially focused on math. 1 assistant fencing coach, 1 administrative assistant that we need, and 10 additional days for administrative assistants, clerical aides to support our elementary schools in the summer, helping prepare and get ready for the school year. To support our safety and secure schools, we're looking at 1 custodian. And then this is different, but we think is very important. 7 full-time security guards, 1 in each elementary school. We will look at in society in this day and age, we think it's important that we shore up our elementaries and secure them by providing them each with a security guard to help monitor, to help drop off, to help with pickup as well. The 23-24 budget also has capital improvement projects, making a significant investment in our infrastructure, and that's at approximately 4.3 million. Some of the capital projects we're looking to complete: the Washington School playground replacement, an elevator replacement in West Orange High School, refurbished exterior masonry at the auditorium, also West Orange High School. Although we have the ability to fund all our capital projects within a preliminary 23-24 budget, the district will apply for regular operating district grants, which is called a ROD grant. And this helps offset costs. So what this is an opportunity for us to receive about 40% approximately 1.2 million, we can reimburse for some of our projects. We've applied for that grant to see if we can get some of that money back. Some of the projects that are eligible for the ROD grant, the St. Cloud renovation at the lower level, an HVAC thermal control, West Orange High School, an HVAC vent control, again, West Orange High School, variable air volume system replacement, which is an HVAC unit at West Orange High School right here in the Library Media Center. Okay, let's take a look at the budget impact. Okay. So we went over it before. We talked about the tax levy, the general fund at 150 million, the bank cap again at 972,000, and debt services at 4,897,000. That's right. Which will leave us to the tax impact. The tax impact would be at a 2.66. When we take a look at an average monthly home, that increase is somewhere at the neighborhood of $24.70. Well, this allows us to meet our goals of the budget and increase and support student achievement by, again, like we were looking to do, increase and support student achievement by optimizing district spending and also maintain a safe and secure environment in all buildings, which we think our interventionists, our security guards address. Oh, and this would be our final budget presentation. Is that it, Lauren? Yep. Thank you very much. I was looking for my cue from behind, but but this would be the budget presentation, similar to the preliminary, except we were able to not increase that 2.66 number, but find cost savings right within and able to give each elementary a security guard, and also, as you can see, to address student achievement, we wanted to make sure we have math interventionists in each middle school to directly address student achievement. So those were the two revised changes. Thank you. Yep. Okay. Would the board please take their seats?
Thank you, Lauren. If there's commentary on the budget, we'll save that for the motion later on, but are there any questions from the board about the presentation? No, I think questions would be appropriate now. Just general commentary will save for when we make the motion later on in the meeting.
My question is pertaining to the bank cap. How much do we have left before it expires when we go to this 2.66?
Roughly, let me see, the total that we had was $1.4 million roughly, and we're proposing in this budget $972,000.
My next question is about the ROD grants. When will we know if we received them or we were eligible for those?
That's a process. The application was due May 31st, I believe. No, May 15th. I'm misremembering now, but the application was already submitted by the architect of record, DeCara Rubino. And now it's a process in terms of how quickly the state will evaluate all the applications. They'll start once they've received all the applications from all the districts, and they prioritize the projects. So each project, it's tiered. So 1 through 13, there's ratings for the projects. So based on what all the districts have submitted, we'll determine when our applications are prioritized.
Do we have a list of what our high priority capital projects are that we applied for this particular grant?
Those are the ones that we included in the budget.
Okay,
Those are the
okay,
ones, yes.
okay.
And those are in tier one of the application, the HVAC projects and any projects that were towards safety and security.
So if we don't obtain these broad grants, is this still covered by the budget or are these projects out of? that
No,
budget?
in order to go for the ROD grants, we had to fully fund the projects within this budget. And then if we do get approved, because it's a total pool of money. So again, depending on how many districts submitted applications and what those applications, what the amounts were, will determine how much money we may be eligible for. So we had to fully fund it and then it'll be a reimbursement. So that'll be money that we'll be able to put back into our capital projects.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have no more questions. Thank you.
Thank you for those questions.
Thank you, Vice President Huerta. Does somebody else have questions?
I didn't, but I just wanted to follow up on that. So we pay for the improvements. If we're lucky, we get reimbursed by the ROD grants. So what we paid gets reimbursed to us in this year's budget?
This could go for some time, so it may be even into next year's budget. We don't know what the timeline is.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All right, Mr. Stevenson.
New positions, what number of those new 11 positions? It's 11 positions, correct?
11 positions that we submitted, and then we added security guards, so it's actually a few more.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Plus 3 interventionists and the 6 security guards.
So the total number is,
14 plus 6, 20.
so 20. Of those 20 positions, how many of those positions are mandated?
Based on enrollment and class size, I would have to look at that, because some of them we had to add for purposes of our special needs courses. There's a cap on those, so I would have to go back to that and I can verify and get back to you.
All right, seeing no more questions.
I'm sorry, just one
Yeah.
more. This high school exterior masonry for the auditorium, how urgent is this particular project? Like, is it absolutely necessary?
I would say yes. Can we defer it for another year or two? We have a new architect of record on who's going through and doing a full facility assessment on all of our buildings. So I can give you more of a timeline once they're done with that. But this was identified by our director, Michael Semino, as a priority for us to get done sooner rather than later.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
No further questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Moore, for the budget presentation. And United Asian Voices has left, but I wanted to say thank you. We'll put it on the TV for them. It's always great to hear our students. And thank you for that presentation. Mr. Moore, you had one more thing on your agenda?
I do, and then we'll conclude. So the HIB report, since our last board meeting, we have had 5 HIB investigations. I'm happy to report. All 5 have been deemed as non-confirmed, and I have concurred with the findings of the anti-bullying specialist that has been presented. So that would conclude my first report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moore. Do we have any committee reports from the board? All right. And I will move on to my board president's reports. And tonight I'm going to share a little bit about what's going on at Roosevelt Middle School. Our environmental club hosted its 2nd annual clothing swap to fight against fast fashion and help reduce clothes-related waste. Roosevelt Gardening Club, in conjunction with the West Orange Environmental Commission, prepared for a new bioretention rain garden at Roosevelt. Roosevelt also participated in the National Day of Unplugging, where students and staff forfeited electronics and electronic devices for the entire school day and focused on social interaction. And the Roosevelt World Language teacher, Liana Amarim, is hosting Spanish class weekly for district staff looking to learn the language to better serve our community. So thank you to Roosevelt Middle School for all the great things that are going on there. Next, we will move on to questions from the public on agenda items only. If there's any community member who would like to make comments or ask questions, please come to the podium at this time. Please state your name and home address for the record, and then begin your comments. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Do we have any members of the public here who would like to make a public comment?
Adam Kramer, 20 Moran Road, West Orange. I have questions related to business item 1, the budget. In your agenda, you indicated that you're going to be spending $212,455,099 for less than 7,000 students, or well over 30,000 a student. You indicate that you have massive increases in state aid and a significant fund balance. Under that context, why is any tax levy increase needed nor warranted? I can point to some things that you do differently here, causing us to spend more than other districts without having any impact on classroom instruction. We don't use the state plan. This is something in healthcare we pay more for. I respect our teachers. I like our teachers. I don't want to break the teachers union, but there's economic necessity in ceasing to pay insurance through a broker. It's about the most expensive way of doing it. Also, I noticed recently, Freehold Regional, they strictly went to the 2.5-mile state rule on buses. The parents screamed. The board members said, no, we need to do this for the taxpayer. I don't see taxpayer advocacy like that here. Maybe we should. Maybe the lack of taxpayer advocacy explains why 0.8% of assessed value, the highest tax levy rate anywhere, exists here. Other things that you're doing differently. Most districts in this state don't provide transportation after school for those engaged in extracurricular. Other things that we do differently include the number of administrators we have. Do we really need all the vice principals that we have in the elementary and high schools? Those are things that don't directly impact education. And I think we have to do things differently, because though I value education and I wouldn't want to defund schools to any point where it would adversely keep a student from having a true opportunity to learn, this has to be a place where people can afford to live. And you're integral in doing that. And to that extent, I want you guys to step up and advocate more for the taxpayers. Thank you for hearing me out.
Good evening, esteemed board. My name is Kabira Myers and I live on Randolph Place here in West Orange. I just needed some clarification on some of the numbers that were mentioned this evening. And I thank Superintendent for making the presentation. But I just wanted some clarification on some of the things that were mentioned, some of the items, including the renovations at West Orange High School that I understood to or that have the ability to be deferred for 1 to 2 years. If in fact those renovations at the high school are deferred for 1 to 2 years, have you calculated how much of a discount that would create in this year's budget, or the most recent budget that was presented to us this evening? In addition to that, can we please put this final budget presentation on the website? I didn't see it on the website. And then the tax impact of 2.66%. Actually, before I even ask about that, the $1.2 million ROD grant that was recently applied for, if in fact we do get that grant, how will that benefit the taxpayer? Will that, I understand that that grant would go back into covering some of the budgetary items, but would that be after the taxpayers have funded this proposed budget, or would it be, would it reduce the price tag of this budget that we just heard about? And then finally, separate from the budget. Can we please make the meetings hybrid? Is that possible? My understanding is that right now that they're just in-person meetings, and if you want to observe, you can watch the meetings recorded. But can we make them accessible to folks who would like to participate remotely, like by Zoom? Thank you so much.
I'm gonna ask Tanya to give me a little help with the ROD grant to tell you, but I can give you my understanding so far. My understanding is that the ROD grant we apply for, but we do have to fund it up front. And once we fund it up front, I believe once we get that application, and Tanya, please correct me, but if we get the money comes back to us. Now, I do not think that if we get the money, we send it back to you guys, taxpayers, including me, taxpayers. I think that it will help fund the budget and maybe the budget going forward. Let me get clarification on that, though, to tell you, Tanya, am I incorrect on?
No,
what I'm saying?
you are correct, Mr. Moore. Once this budget is passed, the numbers are the numbers, because the ROD grant eligibility, the application itself, it could take 1-2 years. It's all phases based on the completion of the work. So it's not a matter of us being able to get those funds from the state by the time we have to strike this budget, which is July 1. We approve the budget today. The fiscal year starts July 1. So no, we would not have those funds back to be able to go back to the taxpayers or anything like that. And ROD grant,
Tanya,
Yes.
does the funds, when we get it back, does it fund us for the future budget, or does it help us within this budget if we were to get the funds back? Because I think that was a question, correct? Or was I wrong? Okay,
right, so it will not change what the taxpayers will be assessed in there for the tax levy for this coming school year, this coming budget year. In the future, depending on, again, the monies are reimbursed in phases and percentages. So based on whatever the completion of the work is, will determine how much money we get back. So at that point, we can then apply it. It'll go into our budget, and then we would then be able to affect future budgets, subsequent budgets. It's not going to change this budget that we're passing today.
If the grants are approved, then that projected 1.2 million gets reallocated either by the superintendent's recommendation and the board's approval. Correct?
It comes back to us as revenue, and then at that point, once the funds are audited, our budget is audited, as we get an annual audit, that money then falls into, say, fund balance, and then we can then appropriate it accordingly.
But it may not be appropriated during the current.
Correct. At this
Fiscal
point,
budget
this
year.
budget,
Good.
correct, the
Okay.
future budgets, because at this point, again, it's done in phases and we don't know what the timeline is in terms of approval. And then based on completed work, we then apply for, say, X amount of dollars, depending on what projects are approved. So we just gave the presentation based on all the projects that we submitted, 4 different applications for the 4 different I believe it was 4. So based on the dollar amounts for each of those projects and how much we get approved for, will determine how much money we'll be able to put back into future budgets.
So hypothetically, with the long list, I'm presuming a long list of deferred maintenance or other capital improvements, if you got back that 1.2, if the superintendent recommended to the board that 1.2 reimbursement ought to go to additional capital improvement projects, whether it was in the upcoming budget year or a subsequent budget year, that money then could be applied.
Correct.
So did we receive any ROD grant reimbursement this past year?
No, we have not. This is the first time the ROD grants have been, the state made these grants available in a few years now.
Okay.
For that, the projects are not, the facilities are being assessed by our new architect. So at this point in time, the projects that were put forth was by our director of buildings and grounds, and those were the ones that are a priority. that he submitted into this budget. But I do want to make note that even if we were to say we're not going to do these $4.3 million in projects, that's not going to change the tax levy because these projects are not being funded through the tax levy. They're part of our overall budget, but they're paid for through budgeted fund balance, which does not impact our tax levy.
As far as in terms of, my perspective as a taxpayer, as a board member, I recall the Washington retaining wall that I think a previous board took up, and at some point, the initial costs were around $450,000. It was deferred for a period of time. I don't know the exact time it was deferred. And then ultimately the bill to the district was somewhere around $1.2 million. And so I think the community should be aware that you have these projects, which seem like they're big ticket items at the time, and then they continue to get deferred, and then everything is subject to inflation or just the normal course of things going up. So I think it's really important that that the community be aware of that.
Thank you for that, Mr. Stevenson.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, thank you, President Rock. Thank you, and thank you.
All right, so with that, we will move on to our resolutions on the agenda. May I have a motion to approve the personnel items A1 through 6?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Vice President Huerta. I want to congratulate the following retirees. Julie DiGiacomo, the principal at Mount Pleasant Elementary for her 8 years of service. Douglas Drabeck, the social studies teacher at West Orange High School for his 24 years of service. Amy Pacifico, a 5th grade teacher at Kelly Elementary for her 28 years of service. And Donna Zaro, a paraprofessional at Betty Madalena for her 22 years of service. Thank you all for your service to the West Orange students and our school community, and welcome to the club where every day is Saturday. Is there any discussion on personnel?
May I make a comment for some of those? The retirees are very special. I would be remiss though if I didn't mention our principal at Mount Pleasant retiring today. Retiring, not today, but retiring. Forgive me for saying the word today, but I meant retiring. Surprise, but I think that welcomed, and I want to wish publicly our principal at Mount Pleasant the best of luck. We know she worked very hard, to Julie DiGiacomo, and I wish her the best in her retirement. So thank you, Mr. Rock, for giving me that moment. And to all the retirees who I also know, I wish them the best as well. But thank you.
Is there any other comment on personnel? All right, seeing none, Ms. Flowers, please take the roll.
Mr. Ifka,
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson,
Yes.
Ms. Tunnicliff,
Yes.
Vice President Huerta,
Yes.
President Rock.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, may I have a motion to approve the curriculum and instruction items B1 through 5?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Tunnicliff. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Huerta. Is there any discussion?
I would like to just say it's nice to see that we're still using our ESSER 3 grant money, and I'm glad to see it's going towards AAPI. Just wondering also if there's a plan to continue this lecture beyond this year, or is this a one-time only?
No, but I thank you for bringing that up. Board member Tunnicliff, you're absolutely right. It is something that we care about. I think it's part of our fabric. We will continue to move in that direction, and with the continued support of yourself and this board, I thank you. We'll look to increase and to add to what we have done so far. So thank you.
Thank you. I also have one more question. In relation to item number 5, do we know how many students will be served by the social emotional learning summer program and how they've been identified? If you could elaborate on that.
I don't have an exact number for you, but I will get back and we'll talk about that a little, because I think that's important for people to make sure they know we're having that summer camp, but I don't have an exact number at this time.
Great, thank you.
All right, any other comments on curriculum and instruction? Seeing none, Ms. Flowers, would you take the roll?
Mr. Ifker,
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson,
Yes.
Ms. Tunnicliff,
Yes.
Vice President Huerta,
Yes.
President Rock.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, next, may I have a motion to approve the finance items, special services items A1 through 3, and business office items 1 through 18, including the budget.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Tunnicliff. At this point, I suspect there are some comments on the budget. So would anyone like to jump in and go first?
I shall.
Go right ahead, Vice President Huerta.
So I have a little bit of something to say. So the implications and the consequences of not passing this budget are serious, to say the least. It can and will impact the district, the staff, the administration, and unions, all whom play vital roles in our district. I have to vote no on this budget because the unfortunate truth is that we have not been educating our children equitably. And while our district and our staff and our programs are some of the best in the state and the county, we have so much work to do. We have to reach our students, the ones that have always been left behind or have been pushed through our system. And too much time has gone that we keep failing our kids because of the interest of adults who are entrusted and paid to look out for the best interests of our students. So my no vote doesn't reflect the trust and the confidence that I have in this administration and its new leadership. But I don't envy your task. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Yeah, Robert?
Do you want to go first? Go, please.
Thank you, Vice President Huerta, for those comments. I think that passing budgets are difficult things. I think I said that at our March meeting. And this budget, for me, has been a difficult budget to review and to look at. Not because the things in it are not needed and are not necessary, but I think that it's important for us as a district to first put student achievement at the forefront of everything we do, to make our investments and all of our decisions to be reflective of that. And also to the comments around the ROD grant, to know that we're really putting investments around our infrastructure and our buildings to make sure that children have a safe environment in which to learn. In the budget presentation, that was second to student achievement, and I think that is a good point there. We know the cost that it takes to run a district such as ours with the facilities that we have, but we also have to be mindful that if we're not particularly focused on making sure that every day of our work, every day of our service as board members is centered around student achievement, then we're not serving our community in the way that they've entrusted us to. I think Mr. Kramer's points for me always trigger me to think about how we can do things better. So Mr. Kramer, I appreciate your comments. I wish your comments, and you may not have this information because many times community members don't delve deep into kind of the granularity of all of the numbers. These are tough decisions for the superintendent, this superintendent, any superintendent in any district, not just in New Jersey, but across the country, to make decisions and recommendations to a board about things that should be approved. You mentioned, or you said in your comments, which is probably one of the reasons why on social media you may get lambasted sometimes for some of the comments that you make. You said our elementary schools, do they need vice principals? Well, the reality is, Mr. Kramer, none of our elementary schools have assistant principals. It was stricken from the budget some time ago. And so someone had to make that hard decision in a previous administration, in a previous budget year, that our schools no longer needed assistant principals. we've all had the conversation and debate around transportation in a community that's got rolling hills and all the other things that make it highly inconvenient and particularly maybe unsafe for some of our students to travel after school for their extracurricular activities. Well, that's something that maybe particular our community that we have to look at in a much different way than other communities. And so I don't envy the task of other communities to decide budgetarily what works for their district. We've been elected and tasked to see what works for our district. And I'll tell you that I think for the most part, there are several things that work, but there are some things that I think need tweaking and need some review. And I think my colleagues and I, along with Superintendent Moore and Mrs. Flowers and Ms. Flores and their entire team, is committed to doing that. And so I will cast a yes vote for this budget with the understanding that the decisions that this board has to make from a budget standpoint and from a putting student achievement at the forefront of our responsibility, that moving forward, that we have a process that surpasses transparency in an unprecedented way for the community. The community knows where its resources are going, and that we create a system for ourselves as board members, duly elected by the people, for this superintendent and our support of him, and for the nearly 700 people that work for the district who are entrusted to educate our children, that we create a system that is rooted in professional excellence to achieve student achievement, and also to have the accountability that allows us to make decisions in the future that best serve this entire community. So those are my comments. I thank you, Mr. Kramer, for your comments. I thank the previous citizens for their comments, and I also thank my board colleagues for really undertaking this as a very serious matter. We do not sit here to rubber stamp anything. We do not take this responsibility lightly or for granted. These are real dollars that every taxpayer in this community is subject to the decision of this board. And I can assure you, Mr. Kramer, although you may not agree, and I'm not just saying it because you're the one with the comments tonight, but I can assure from my vantage point, this community, that this board takes this endeavor seriously, and that we have committed to take it even more seriously, to heighten that as we move forward, to really ensure the success of the nearly 7,000 students that are enrolled in our schools. So with that, thank you.
Thank you. Robert?
So I made some comments last week, which I'll just reiterate. In my mind, there's good news and there's bad news. I first want to echo what Mr. Stevenson said, which is that the board takes this very seriously. I'm very impressed with the board. They've been very generous and kind to me as the newest member. Maybe I've leaned on them too much. I feel bad for Mr. Stevenson. I give him calls all hours of the night and on the weekends, but I feel like it's really helped me come to speed. I will tell you that if we had these conversations, these intense conversations that we've had in the past month, if we had them in January, February, and March, this budget would not pass. The problem is that this process is out of whack. Everything is just deemed to be, I feel like there's a little bit of like, it's an automatic. If the state says you can raise your budget by 2%, we're going to raise it 2%. There's plenty of things to spend money on. I get the feeling if the state tomorrow says that we can raise it by 3%, that's where we're going to go. That's no good. And there's no point in us being on the board if we're just going to be a rubber stamp. That's not why I ran. Today, I don't want to make this about me, but today I picked up, you can't see it, but I have new soles on my shoes because of the walking I did up and down the hills to meet people and to talk to people. I wouldn't have done it if I thought this was just going to be an automatic yes on the vote. So I don't like the process. There has to be better communication. It has to start much earlier. And there can't be this expectation from the community and from us that, of course, we're going to raise it 2%. It's only $20 a month or something. It adds up and people can't afford it. Not to mention the fact that if you look on the Board of Education website, you see the reports that say 40% of our children can't read, write, or do math at the grade level. That's horrible. I hear people tell me all the time, I don't mind paying taxes, you know, if we get what we're paying for. This is not working. Now, I can tell you that next year's budget is going to look a lot different just from speaking with everyone here. And it's a shame that we couldn't nip this thing a little earlier on this budget. So that's the bad news. The good news, as I said last time, is I'm convinced that Mr. Moore has the same vision that not just I do, but I think that all of us do, which is, come on, this is not sustainable. We can't just keep rubber stamping automatic increases. Doesn't mean we cut and slash here, but I never heard anyone use the term interventionalist in education before I met Mr. Moore. And what that means is that he's going right where the problems are. If children in a certain class or in a certain subject are not learning, we're not just hiring, he's hiring interventional people to go right to where the problem is. And I think that's gonna pay off. So I'll say to him again, you know, we have your back. We want you to be bold. I really am excited about the future. This budget was not yours. It was not his. He sort of inherited it late in the game. So I don't hold him responsible for this. However, I'm not voting for this budget. We have to have some accountability to the taxpayers and to the children that we care about. And for those reasons, I'm going to vote no.
Ms. Dyke, do you have any comments?
No, I echo a lot of the sentiments that my colleagues have said on both sides. But thank you.
Thank you. I'm also a taxpayer here in West Orange. I get a tax bill and pay it every month. And when I moved here to West Orange, I knew exactly what the taxes were going to be on my house. And I expected that they would go up about 2% each year. And it's not because I think that we should just rubber stamp what's going on. It's because if an organization doesn't grow in a reasonable and responsible way, it shrinks and it dies. I moved to West Orange because these schools are great, because my child got a great education here at West Orange High School under the leadership of Mr. Moore. And I thank the boards that came before that supported that. And I ran to make sure that every child that lives in this district later will also have that. Now, I look forward to the conversations that we have around strategic planning, because I think there's conversations we can have about how to best serve every child. I respect that. And, you know, there may be some tough conversations, but I don't see how we do a better job with less money. Every year I set a budget for my house and nothing goes down. Fuel costs go up. Guess what? The district also pays for fuel when we transport kids to this school, when we transport them out of district to special ed schools. So those costs go up. Cost for healthcare goes up. If we limit just to 2%, which is the standard by state law, it used to be a lot higher and boards used to go far beyond that. We cannot keep pace with the costs that go up for everything that we spend. If you look over the last 10 years, the tax levy in this district has grown less than inflation. I will repeat that. The tax levy has gone up less than inflation. In real dollars, we are collecting less money today than we were 10 years ago. The only reason we are continuing to serve our students is because state aid has increased. Without that, we would be cutting. And if it had not increased in the last few years, we would be cutting to the bone. I don't look forward to the day that we have to do that. But that is why I take as a philosophical starting point for this budget that we have needs that increase, and we need to increase that 2.66%. The reason we're doing that is because a previous board kicked the can down the road. If they had gone to 2%, the standard, we would not have banked cap. We are making up for the mistake of a board that came before. If we pushed off the work on a high school, a future board would have to find money to spend to fix that, because at some point the wall falls down. The retaining wall needs to be fixed. There is no easy way to cut a budget. We are effectively cutting it, though, because the tax levy is not increasing beyond inflation, and we are continuing to pay our bills as best we can. And that is why I support the budget that Mr. Moore put together. I appreciate the way that he went back to the drawing board and made a few adjustments. Appreciate the way that within the amount of money that we had to spend, he was able to direct more of those dollars to students and to improving student achievement. And so I wholeheartedly support this budget. I thank the board members that will also support it. And to those that are considering voting no when Ms. Flowers calls the roll, I would ask you to reconsider. It's your right to vote no. You've stated why, and I respect our differences of opinions on some things. But I think that we need to say that we are here to support this administration, and voting no for whatever reason doesn't fix how the money is spent, right? Reducing the amount of money that we have does not make it easier to serve every student. So with that, unless anyone has any other comments, I will ask Ms. Flowers to take the roll.
Mr. President, I make one comment. So I just want to, I appreciate your comment. I appreciate the comments of all of the board members. And I think this is a good first step as a demonstration to our constituency that there is a commitment to have those really real conversations about budget policy, strategic planning, how we serve every child. And I think that it's important that we do that. And I agree with everything that you have said with respect to the spending and it being out of line. And I don't think the community realizes it in the manner in which you just described it, because maybe it's never been articulated in the way that you've described it, right? And I think it's important that the process, as Mr. Ifker mentioned, has to be elongated, has to be more transparent, has to be presented in a way where, as I mentioned to Mr. Kramer, when he thinks it's X and it's really Y, and maybe we as a board, as a district, we've not conveyed to the community exactly what it is, that's really our incumbent responsibility, that the community hears those perspectives, right? Those different perspectives. So thank you, Mr. Rock, for crystallizing that. And again, as someone who's supporting this budget, but is also ready to roll up the sleeves to do exactly what everyone has commented on this evening, Ms. Tunnicliffe, Vice President Huerta, Mr. Ifker, you, President Rock, and myself, and in full support of Superintendent Moore and the work that lies ahead.
I'd also just like to echo, your sentiments. I know we've all had these discussions in private and together and separate individually amongst ourselves. And so we are committed to having the tough conversations. And I think that the people that need to be here are here. I also do think that fiscally, right, we are being priced out of our own community. I grew up here. I went to school here. And the reality is I can no longer, a lot of my family members and my friends can no longer afford to live here, have been priced out, have moved on a long time ago. I'm not a homeowner, but I'm a renter. And that makes situations sometimes less out of my control when I'm being priced out of my own community. And so the consequences are very real for all of us involved, So that's all I would say. Thank you.
Seeing no other comments, Ms. Flowers, would you please take the roll?
President Rock, would you like to, because I know the budget solely, do we want to vote on the budget separate as a separate item? Do you want me?
Yes, can we pull out without objection, we'll pull out the
motion.
budget resolution. And which resolution is that?
B1.
B1.
Finance B1.
Okay, so CB1. Yeah. So we'll vote on that first, and then we'll have a separate vote,
Do we
roll
need a
call
motion?
on.
Or we had a motion?
We had a motion on the floor for all of finance, special services, A1 through 3, and business office, B1 through 18. If we can just pull out B1 of finance,
So
finance B1.
I move we pull out B1 Finance as a separate vote.
I second.
Okay. Any objection? All right, Ms. Flowers, take.
So this is to vote, this is not the budget vote.
No, this is not the
just
budget.
Finance A through. A through
Exception of
B.
B1.
Mhm.
With the exception of B1.
Right, with the exception of.
Yeah.
B1.
Everything except the budget.
Thank you.
We'll do the budget separately afterwards.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Ifker,
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson,
Yes.
Ms. Tunnicliffe,
Yes.
Vice President Huerta,
Yes.
President Rock.
Yes.
Okay, and now for the vote for Finance B1.
And for clarification, that's the budget.
That's the budget, correct?
And are we making another
So
motion?
we make,
Motion, please,
Okay.
yes.
Can we get a motion to approve Finance B1, the budget?
So
so
moved.
move.
Thank you, Ms. Tunnicliff. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. Ms. Flowers.
Mr. Ifker,
No.
Mr. Stevenson,
Yes.
Ms. Tunnicliff,
Yes.
Vice President Huerta,
No.
President Rock.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you to my board colleagues for that thorough discussion. And finally, may I have a motion to approve reports item D1 through 2?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Vice President Huerta. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Flowers, please take the roll.
Mr. Ifker,
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson,
Yes.
Ms. Tunnicliff,
Yes.
Vice President Huerta,
Yes.
President Rock.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have petitions and hearings of citizens for any agenda or non-agenda item that you wish to discuss. You will have 3 minutes to speak. Please approach the podium at this time and state your name and address for the record.
Adam Kramer, 20 Moran Road, West Orange, New Jersey. There's a lot of disconnects that I've noticed at this meeting. This is the agenda I printed out literally about an hour and a half before the meeting started. It says you're going to spend $221,455,099. Page 7 of the agenda. You showed that in the budget presentation, you have less than 7,000 students. That's over $30,000 a student. That's disparately more than pretty much every district in the United States and the state of New Jersey. There's some that spend more, most don't. I can point to a host of districts that, like West Orange, have aging infrastructure, multicultural students, ESL, spec ed, complex transportation problem, declining infrastructure, and they spend less per student than us. Some of the districts I can point to where that's factually true are Parsippany, Wayne, Maplewood South Orange, Montclair, Piscataway. And I could go on with many more in that boat. So obviously we're doing something differently that our taxes are so much disparately higher. By rate, we're now at 2.8% of assessed value just going to the schools. There is no district that I could find anywhere where the rate is that higher. Milburn may have a higher school tax levy, but their property values are much more. Their rate is actually only about 1% of assessed value. So these disconnects I find very troubling. We do things differently in West Orange. And from my perspective, we just don't have taxpayer advocacy. I think you can have taxpayer advocacy and still make sure there's enough funding so that if things are done right, every student that walks in the door of every school has a chance to leave mastering numeracy, literacy, communication skills, and walk out with every opportunity to obtain a good education. I just don't see this process of really working. I see too many disconnects between what happens everywhere else, and I see my tax bill being too high, and I see the performance post-COVID as being a disaster, and it troubles me. I don't think driving the town into bankruptcy and making us an unaffordable place to live is the answer. There's got to be a different answer. You have to do the tough choices to make things happen differently. Thank you.
Seeing no one else. Thank you very much. Our next regular board meeting will be held at 7:30 PM on June 12th, 2023. 3. As a reminder to those listening at home, we'll have a presentation from our attorney's office on HIB, harassment, intimidation, and bullying, both for the education of the board and any community members who are curious how that process works, because I know we've had a few questions throughout the year about that. This meeting will be held here in the West Orange High School Library Media Center. We will not be going into executive session after the close of this meeting. There will be no further business discussed and no additional action will be taken. May I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Vice President Huerta. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you for joining us tonight. Our meeting is adjourned.